think we all have a love-hate relationship with the bench press. The amount of risks, the injuries that I always see online, and I hear from all my friends and fellow gym members, right? They all have one thing they come out of from the bench press: shoulder problems. And it's this kind of relationship with the shoulder and the chest that are so tightly bounded with one another, especially in this kind of pressing movement. And we need to understand that why our sole focus is the abduction of the chest, which allows for the contraction of the pectoral muscles. We can't just isolate that. Somehow the shoulder is used because the humerus moves alongside the bench press, right? And the humerus is what is the ball and socket of the shoulder, an extremely mobile joint of your body, or the most mobile joint. And personally, I'll say that a lot of amateurs on the bench press do not understand how significant it is or how important the shoulders are in the bench press, and the relationship that the shoulder, the scapula, and the chest all have. They somewhat have a synergy with one another in this bench press. So before going on to this, I'll probably say that although the bench press is a great chest movement, right? It's great for chest gains. There are so many bodybuilders, so many experienced people that have main intentions of muscle building. So not necessarily just the movement itself, but they want to look stronger, right? Like look bigger. These guys always say, or not always, but a lot of the top people, like Jay Cutler, they always say, use dumbbells. It puts a lot less stress on your shoulders because you have greater mobility, you're able to move around, you're not restricted by the barbell. And they say that the bench press just has too many risks to it. There's too many injuries you can get in your shoulder. And the shoulder, as the fundamental of your whole upper body, anything to do with your arms and your chest, it's such a large risk. There's too little reward for how risky it is. And to an extent, I would agree with this, right? But that's only if you do not practice correct movement. Now, over here, I think, looking from my movement, right, you probably see a tendency of me lifting my ass up, like just right there, right before I pick up the barbell. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to ensure I maintain that retraction while I lift up, or when I pick up that weight, and just as I'm about to bring it down. Now, a lot of problems I've had with commercial gyms were that the bar height, so the position where I pick up the bar, it's too high. It's too high to the point where I can't maintain that retraction on my scapulars. And because I'll have to pick up that bar with my shoulders rolled out and then retract it, it puts too much emphasis and stress on your shoulders, especially while it's in that movement. And this is a great problem. You should not be adding weight while you're moving your shoulder socket in that manner, like in an up and down manner, especially when you're in a lying down position. Now you might say, like, the shoulder press, the shoulder press has great shoulder mobility, you need to use shoulders a lot. Well, that's true, but it's not necessarily a movement where you roll your shoulders out, right? And the fact that you're having your shoulders rolled out with, let's say, 80 to 100 kilos, that's where problems occur. Now, by retracting our scapula, we're keeping that shoulder so the humerus in position, right? That ball in that socket. It's ensuring that while we're adducting our chest, we're ensuring that our shoulders are kept stable and are not moving, right? Now, in this bench session, it's been around 2 months, but I would say I made sure I was arching hard. Now, maybe to the extent of probably excessive arching, things that people may say as, cheating, like a poor movement, a pussy move, right? Well, I tried keeping the arch to the point where I was able to keep that retraction and nothing excessive, nothing more than that. Because going beyond that, well, that's just shortening your range of motion. And what's the point of that when trying to maximize chest gains, right? You want to keep that stretch deep with your chest. You don't want to limit that stretch unless you're purely going for a competitive way, like competition styles. So talking about that, I personally did have a lot of shoulder problems, especially in my right shoulder. It has like hyperextension. I have really loose ligaments. I've always had really loose shoulder ligaments. I was able to pull the humerus out of its socket. It sounds a bit weird, but yeah. And that only really leads you up to injuries, right? And I was not really aware of this the first time I got into the bench press, right? So I kind of led myself into the injuries, and that's probably on my poor training, I didn't research enough. I was stubborn with the weight, just a really ego-driven kind of dude, right? Now, so going into the bench press, I already had somewhat of a strong chest due to my calisthenics background. And when I say that I was able to increase the weight really fast, it's not really a good thing, because if you're not really retracting your shoulders or keeping that perfect position, you're only going to lead yourself up to injuries. And just in this view before, you may have seen that my right shoulder kind of dips down a bit more than my left shoulder. So I was trying to make a conscious effort to keep those balanced, right? Also, here's a bit of my calisthenics moves here. I'm not familiar with parallettes, so it's my first time trying handstands on these guys. But yeah. Now, after doing weight training, I kind of neglected my calisthenics training. So nowadays I've been trying to ensure I've got a good balance between those two. But I don't know. I guess I did take quite a bit of a detour. I never really focused on those isometric exercises. So those like planche, like 90-degree handstand push-ups and all that. Over here, my handstand push-up was a bit because I was a bit burned out from the bench press. Yeah. So before even going into weights, I don't have any shoulder problems at all. And just doing calisthenics, there was no pain. I never felt discomfort. But it was only when I started doing the bench press in that poor position, that poor posture. That was the reason why, I just led myself to pain and injuries and rotator cuff injuries, right? Now, well, not necessarily rotator cuff. It was more so a ligament wear and tear. But it's the rotator cuffs that I need to be strengthened in order to stabilize the humerus into the socket, right? And upon my journey to research and continuously trying to find out that one pinpoint of my injury, I don't know. I was never able to find out what the problem was. Eventually, I found out it was a potential reason is that I've got really loose ligaments and they were just going beyond the hyperextension, right? Now, I've started implementing a lot of rotator cuff warm-ups and exercises just to ensure that it's able to further have that strength to keep my shoulder in place. But since all the rotator cuff muscles built up by 4 different kind of muscles all work as a synergist, you can't really pinpoint one specific muscle like the supraspinatus, right? You can't just specify that guy as your problem. It's the whole thing, right? Unless you have a specific tear, right? But since they all work together, it's essential to not neglect and keep your training in mind when you're playing around with your rotator cuffs or just with any chest exercise, right? Anything that includes or involves your shoulder. Now over here is just the dips. Surprisingly, well, not really surprisingly, but after doing the bench press quite a bit, I was able to significantly improve my dip strengths, right? My strength in the dip movement. So adding more weight, just adding more reps as well. Now, although I did take a detour from calisthenics, from weights certainly did have a benefit on calisthenics. Although I did gain a bit of weight, and well, since calisthenics is all about body weight, it made movements harder. So maybe like planche holds, handstands and all that. My inherent chest strength did strengthen itself a lot. And I was able to do movements that I could not do beforehand. So this consisted of like 90-degree push-up, so straddle version, and dips. But yeah, over here was a bit of a planche exercise that I did. I started putting a bit more emphasis on the planche during the lockdown, but over here, still a long way away. This is mainly for the anterior deltoids, your serratus anterior, and yeah, just those nuance muscles that are required for that balance. Over here, I used to be able to do the V-sit, not so much now, but yeah. Anyway, I think that's nearly the end, and I'll finish it off here. See you guys.